Hello and welcome back to the one, the only Speculation Alley. It's your boy A-Bomb here, and of course, as always, with me is my brother from another mother, Crypto Dilly. What's going on, my man?
Doing good, man. Ready to get into some speculation. There's some new content from 10KTF that's going to take some people down some rabbit holes, I think. So, let's get right into it. So, with the content, we saw a new video released from 10KTF that gives real big Land Before Time vibes, and a lot of the community hopping on Twitter Spaces. That was their first indication as well. And so I guess let's kind of run with that. What do you think about the Land Before Time reference, and how does that fit into the storyline of what's happening here?
I think obviously due to the content that's within the story that has a lot of, information based off of other characters' perspectives, but I think there's more meta, like we need to read between the lines a little bit more, because I did get the same vibe, Land Before Time. I think that was pretty clear. And I asked myself, what does that mean? The land before time. And there's been some speculation amongst the community that maybe these characters, like the ones that were abducted through these green, portals, whatever you want to call them, they are from a multiverse, or they're from another world in the same universe. But then again, I thought the land before time. And I was like, how hilarious and coincidental would it be if these characters actually are from the same land, such as New Tokyo, but this is before our current time. So what I mean by that is, like, if we were standing in Manhattan 2023, it's going to look very different than, Manhattan in, the first couple hundred years that the universe or the world actually existed and was livable, right? So it's just going to be an interesting thought where I was like, okay, are they going back in time currently with this thing and taking somebody that's from the exact same world and then just bringing them into the current time? So that was my first thought.
Yeah, I think there's a couple like really big questions there. It's like, okay, are they from another world, or are they from our world, New Tokyo, and they're from the land before the present time, right? And that's like the nice play on words, and 10KTF is notorious for that. The other thing that we're seeing is that these PFPs, they're all like ancient creatures. We have Kraken, Masura, Golem. And so if they are creatures from a land before this time, are we going to see more of them portaled through into New Tokyo to create these new PFPs? And what's the greater purpose of these characters, right? But I think a really important distinction was what you highlighted from cinema, which is the way that the kaiju was actually summoned. So you want to talk a little bit about the difference between how the toad was actually summoned and then how these other characters get pulled through?
Yeah, so Cinema pointed out the visual perspective of it. In the video that we're referencing, about 25 seconds in, you'll see the baby kaiju being, summoned, and his body's fully intact. He doesn't glitch out or become pixelated. But then about minute 54 into the video, you see his family members who we saw earlier on in the video, and they're being like sort of, again, like summoned as well, but halfway through their bodies pixelate and disappear, which we did not see that with the first summoning. Now, when the kaiju was summoned a long time ago, when we first saw this from a different perspective, from Boss Toads, these cloaked figures were doing some sort of like cultish moves and chants to bring forth the kaiju, and we saw what happened after that. But where we're seeing now is that this baby kaiju stumbles into like almost a scientific, very elaborate room and does a few accidental things and is able to teleport people there. To me, it was my comparison of like native medicine versus new age medicine. You can get the same end result, but you just went about it different ways. And I thought that was really interesting. And Cinema sort of solidified that thought further by pointing out the difference in the visuals of how they were taken from their current surroundings.
Yeah, and I think one really important distinction within the storyline that's really interesting to me from this video is the fact that in our first appearance of the kaiju, obviously it's summoned using like this dark magic, and this kaiju comes, emerging over the hill and basically stumbles into New Tokyo and destroys everything. and it's pure carnage. And our perception as the viewer is that this kaiju is bad. It's an antagonist, and it's like a terrible creature that's been brought here to destroy Wagnisan. And then this new perspective is that, this kaiju gets pulled from its family and emerges into a new environment that is completely different from his original surroundings. And he's never seen these buildings before because it's a land before the present time. And so these new buildings, they're shiny and they look like, his family. And so he goes and gives them a big hug, which ends up collapsing the buildings and destroying the city. And so it's an important distinction to understand perception, because our perception of what's taking place in the storyline to what's actually happening from another person's viewpoint is really highlighted within the storyline of 10KTF. And so you're your own hero, if you will. And I think this is an important indication of we're going to be able to shape the individuality of our characters for our PFPs as well. And that could be a direct foreshadow to what's taking place within the storyline.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of in that letter, right? That Wagmi-san left, where he says, as long as the portal doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And even with that, it's like, is the baby kaiju the wrong hands? Is that like, or you know what I mean? It's very open-ended, and I love that aspect of this. So I'm really curious to see where this goes. I'd love to hear the community's thoughts. Drop some comments, leave a like, let us know what you think, and check in at the Twitter space that we're gonna have on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we're gonna be talking about all of it. So
yeah, buddy. We'll see you guys on Twitter, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Peace.